wall of global debt. How economics can reshape the development models of Europe, the United States, and China. Leo Olin, China International Capital Corporation.
When the wall fell, I was in Boston.
Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure. Thank you. It's my great pleasure and honor to be here. You may wonder, global debt crisis happen now in the US and in Europe. Why not American or European at this podium, but Chinese? Well, I can guarantee you I will not preach anything. It's just my profession as a macroeconomist to do the most fundamental research. Given this global debt issue is so complex, and this morning someone said we need simple questions and simple solutions. So I will try to use the next 30 minutes to break down this war, not completely, by some of the core critical bricks of this war, to see what is really the problem making the global debt issue so complex, so difficult to address. First of all, let's look at it in the almost 2 years of the past. The debt issue only getting worse and worse. It started from Greece. Now, this Greece issue, by looking at the number, it's quite small. Its GDP is only 2.5% of Eurozone GDP, and its debt level is not that high. However, Greece represented a group of high debt countries in Europe and how European is going to deal with it. Particularly Italy and Spain, their debt level is 10 times higher than Greece. By looking at the Greece issue, we talk about debt sustainability, but debt sustainability has 3 components. Whether the current European policy helps to deal with all these 3. First of all, it's the debt level. Everybody probably by this point are fully aware Greece's debt problem and other countries, many, at least Portugal, is already a solvency issue, not a liquidity issue. So for the debt to be sustainable, either you reduce the debt level. When the debt level cannot be reduced, you need a GDP to grow. So in terms of GDP, the debt is getting smaller. The third component, which is very critical, is the interest rate. If you have a very high interest rate, the debt burden becomes even larger. So if the interest rate usually above 5% is already dangerous, and now Greece faces 100% in the 2-year borrowing and about over 20% at the 10-year borrowing. So obviously, it's not sustainable. At the same time, accumulation of debt until a debt crisis means over excess of spending. So correcting this mistake is fiscal austerity. But when you try to bring the debt sustainability back, you need growth. Austerity means more tax, more spending, so obviously drags down your growth. And the GDP in Greece's term is contracting for many quarters now. So market knows very clearly Greece's issue is no longer liquidity support. But EU leaders up to this point is providing liquidity support. Market get a very temporary break. Say, IMF dispersed the next tranche. But a few weeks after, jittery return. When you have a debt overhang, adding more debt is not going to solve the issue. So at this moment, the patience of a market is really wearing thin. They want to see the next step beyond the liquidity. So liquidity only buys time. In fact, that breathing time gives the politicians and the economists to work out a solution of how to fundamentally change the tide. Now, how to resolve that? For debt overhang, you need debt haircut, restructuring, write down. And currently, Europeans talked about this issue, but only in a very kind of unclear fashion. For instance, haircut of 50%. But this 50% in the longer term, by 2020, bring down Greece's GDP, debt to GDP to 120%. Will market buy that story? Say by that time it's sustainable? Obviously not. It's still too high. Secondly, we need external support, or Europeans have to come up with a very large fund of EFSF. But every country at this point is still reluctant to give money to help these high debt countries. Is there a good reason? Of course. Because Europeans, when you look at the Eurozone, there are two groups. One is the surplus country, the other is the deficit country. So deficit country overspend for many, many years. Now suddenly want a surplus country who maintain the competitiveness, now use their taxpayer money to save the others. From first reaction, of course, is a rejection. It's difficult to bring political consensus to deal with that issue. So that is the second problem. It is reasonable for the Europeans, but unreasonable to the markets. Why it is that? Because if you don't come up with the rescue package to solve the debt overhang, the results will be default. Now, when default comes, who will be hit first? Defaulting country banks. See, let them go. Is it that simple? It is not. In here, current solution is beyond IMF and EU liquidity support is the ECB liquidity support. They already engaged in buying government bonds, or in other way, of using very low quality, including Greek bonds as collateral in exchange for cash. So it's a bad assets in exchange for good assets. So ECB balance sheets is already being deteriorating. So how we can come up with a better solution? A better solution is to deal with the debt overhang right on. But that requires, currently, many people are talking about leveraging up the EFSF or getting help externally outside the European region, including from China. Is that the right solution? We think, first of all, when external support to come, they are looking for three things. For number one, whether this is an investment or it's a bailout. So if you want external investors to bail out European countries, what is the interest there? So if a country bilaterally to bail out, it will be seen as an opportunist. Or as if Germans think China to rescue Greece, let them off the hook. How can Europeans push Greece to do structural reform? So bilateral support or bilateral kind of deal, it's not the first best. So, second, if it is as an investment, of course you look at the returns. At this moment, even European investors are very reluctant to invest in these bonds. Can any outsiders so happily invest? Now talk about guarantee. Say, why not invest? Because EFSF is going to provide a guarantee. But at this moment, this guarantee is 10%, or 100% is entirely still unknown. So market is unsure exactly what the direction to go. Now for Europeans, the bailout will be a waste of money if these countries, high debt in countries, their behavior do not change. 10 years from now, suddenly now the debt is lower. So I can borrow more, spending more. 10 years from now, we'll again face the same debt crisis, maybe even shorter than 10 years. So this entire puzzle have to bring together to see what is the third element. Beyond the liquidity, beyond the bailout, is the roadmap. How European countries, Eurozone, will emerge out of this crisis to become stronger or weaker. In order to become stronger, a long-term pillar supporting a better Eurozone will have to be in place. So that is the time to go back in history to revisit at the time of the European Union and the Eurozone establishment, what are really missing come up to this stage. I'm very pleased at this noontime. Chancellor Merkel mentioned something first time I hear, which is revisit crisis brings us to the point of change. So it's not crisis is a bad thing. Sometimes it can bring good outcome. What is the change she mentioned? One is the Lisbon Treaty, which is crucial. Secondly is give away some of the national interest, thinking about a country issue in Europe, not as just their issue, but a European issue. It's a domestic issue. Thirdly, not a smaller Europe, but a bigger Europe, a larger Europe. So I hope this is the message eventually will translate into concrete measures, which is critical of the third stage, is a long-term map. So what's our missing? Number one is the fiscal union is missing. You have a monetary policy so centralized into European Central Bank. You lost your exchange rate flexibility completely, but you don't have fiscal policy. You only have a Maastricht Treaty. What is a Maastricht Treaty? It's an agreement of gentlemen for the good boys. What is the penalty of violating Maastricht Treaty? None. No wonder when you look at the last 2 weeks, the Greek survey of the Greek citizens, 60% reject all these austerity measures, but 70% want to stay in the Eurozone. So they want the best of it, but without taking harsh change. Now this morning, Professor Weber mentioned change is tough, change is difficult. But without this change, you give good money to write off the bad money, end up you will repeat the same mistake before. So in order to really have the bailouts, not only the market, but it is in the interest of Europeans to really have the pre-commitment, political pre-commitment, social commitment from these high indebted countries to do structural reform. So, very last, of the last 2.5 minutes. So if the Greek issue resembles a major structural reform needed, and the bailout package should be linked to the long-term reform needs, on that basis, I'm pretty sure international support will come. Private sector will crowd in. Using a very simple example, at this moment, free cash sitting on the sideline in the money market fund is almost 3.5 trillion. Before the 2008 crisis, was only 500 billion. So basically, so many investors want to protect their capital by putting money in the money market. If you have a sure future of these countries, will people become less risk-averse in investing in these banks, these bonds? They will. Now, by looking at the reserves of the Asian countries, including China, in fact, the number is much smaller. Talking about China's reserve is almost about 3.5 trillion. But they are already fully invested. It is accumulation of money of the past 30 years, but every time they already invested in US bonds, UK bonds, Japanese bonds, including European bonds. So for external support to come is only the marginal saving from their trade surpluses, and it has to come maybe through the IMF mechanism in order to link with the European interest to forge a concrete long-term reform measures for high indebted countries. So the same mistake will not repeat again. Thank you.